I read a book the other day it's got me shook. Like I'm haunted by this book. And I think you might have read it too. And it is called Yesteryear.
I did read it. In fact, I requested that you read it because it got me shook as well.
Yes. So let's get into it. And just up front, there will be spoilers. So if you have not read the book yet and don't want to be spoiled, then just put a pause in us, go read the book, come on back because we have a mouthful to say about this.
And there will be a movie, and if you don't want the movie spoiled, then just skip this one, go back to the other episodes we have.
Okay, so in a nutshell, the book is about a Tradwife influencer who wakes up in 1855 and is living a pioneer lifestyle and living in real time the lifestyle that she was portraying living as a Tradwife influencer. And well dang, it hits hard. And the very first thing that I noticed about how hard hitting it was is it cuts everybody, not just the Tradwives, but also what the author called the angry women. And I know I would be considered one of the angry women. You know, we would be the people who I don't do this in real life, but if I did troll people, I would be one of those people that was trolling the Tradwife trends because I think it's despicable and heinous and I hate it so much. And so I am most definitely one of the angry women. And what am I angry at? Patriarchy and misogyny. And the Tradwife lifestyle leads to both of those things. So right off the bat, that was one of the first things that I noticed is that it cut to the core pretty much everybody in our culture right now.
So is your contention that the Tradwife influencer culture is a direct result of misogyny and patriarchy?
I am proposing that the Tradwife culture is not only a result of it, but it is intentionally perpetuating it. It's the influencers are trying to get people to go back to a patriarchal society. And there's just so many problems with that.
Draw the line for me between patriarchy and the uptick in Tradwife influencers.
Okay, so I guess I would start with that the patriarchy is the governing system. Most of the developed countries in our world are living in a patriarchal society. And what that means is that it was made for men, designed by men for men. And part of that, as over the last, I would say 50 years or so, as women have started to gain momentum in culture and in the workplace and have started to become more independent and no longer needing men to provide for them, I think that a lot of the men that are in power have gotten really scared. I think they're afraid that sharing power means them losing power. And I have seen a concerted effort from extreme conservative voices to encourage women to go back to a time when the men were the head of the household. And in the Tradwife tradition, a lot of the voices are saying things like women shouldn't have to work. They should just be taking care of their families. They should be taking care of their homes. And Tradwife is explicitly centered around the man. Like back in my day, stay-at-home parent was at least centered around the children. Parent being the operative word. Tradwife means as the wife, your entire household and world is centered around the husband. And I think that some of those voices I've also heard have said things like that women shouldn't be allowed to vote, that there should be one vote per household. And if you disagree with what your husband would vote, then you simply just defer and let him vote however he wants to. And I think the influencers have been propagandizing younger women on that are conservative into believing that that's a better lifestyle for us, for women, and it isn't. It isn't. And this book, oh,
Well, let's talk about
it
the
tells you a lot.
let's talk about the heroine in this book, or the protagonist or antagonist. I'm not sure where I would position her. Natalie, the heroine, so they say, of this book. What was her motivation? I feel like she had a very complex motivation for becoming a Tradwife influencer. I think she was really trying to take control of her family, and she recognized on some level that her husband wasn't going to be able to. But she was raised both in her own family and in her in-law family that women are subservient and women follow the men, and she was just trying to gain some self-control over her own life by becoming an influencer, making her own money. She recognized her father-in-law was going to stop giving her money. Her husband was not going to get a traditional job, and on the field he wasn't making a ton of money because he was making choices that weren't for making money. He was making choices for his own pleasure, I guess.
Yeah. I think that very early on, when she made that move to bring the entire family to the farm, I think she was still leaning into the patriarchal idea that, there was a movie a long time ago called My Big Fat Greek Wedding or something like that. And one of the lines in there was, the man is the head of the household, but the woman is the neck, and she can turn the head any way she wants. And I think that this Natalie was leaning into that trope of my husband is kind of worthless as shit. And so I'm going to, as the neck, I'm going to turn the head of household in a direction so that the entire family can succeed. But I have to do it behind the scenes. And so that's why I think like her conversations with her father-in-law, he totally understood who she was. He knew that his son was kind of useless, and he recognized immediately that she was going to be the person that could propel him into some kind of a life that he could not I wouldn't say be proud of, but at least not be ashamed of.
But this was one of the major flaws in her execution of the plan, is that what she created was 100% illusion. She hid all of in the beginning, she hid all of the modern appliances and whatnot, and she made him seem like a really tough guy, and she didn't admit to using pesticides or help on the farm or all the help she had in the house. It was all an illusion, both to him, to the father-in-law, to her mother and sister, and then also to her followers and the hateful women, the angry women. It was all illusion that she created, and maybe she wanted it to be true.
But I think to herself as well.
Yes.
I think she ultimately ended up lying to herself as well. I don't think she started out that way. When they first got to the farm, she just was doing videos because she thought that might be a way to make extra cash. And she sort of fell into becoming an influencer when another influencer caught her stuff and was starting to promote it. And when she learned she could make money being that particular kind of way under a patriarchal society, she leaned into it so that she could make the money. She recognized right away that pretending to be that was going to be the way that she was going to make enough money to sustain the family, because her husband wasn't going to do it.
Well, I think it's multi-layered, though, because while it seems like she was lying to herself, I think it was so much more complex than that, because she was raised to be a particular person, and she just wanted to put that on. She tried to do something else in college, briefly, didn't like it, and ended up going, okay, I'm going to be in the safety of what my family, my church, my community expect me to be. And then she put that on. But she never wanted to be authentically who she was. So I don't know if it was a true lie to herself. I think she was lying to everybody, maybe to herself too, to be this person who she thought she was expected to be. And then she ended up not ever achieving that, or not ever being happy in that role. And I think at some point when her mother came out of the cult, or started going to therapy, whatever that change was, I think Natalie was really confused by that, because her mother was one of the people who instilled in her, this is what you have to be. And she never really knew anything other than the Natalie she was supposed to be. And therefore, I'm not sure she even understood what lying to herself would mean.
Agreed. Yeah, I think so. I don't think she ever had a handle on who she really was, apart from who other people were telling her she was supposed to be.
Yes, exactly.
I don't think she ever had a handle on that. And I do think that the story between her and her mom is a pretty critical piece, because her mom raised her in a particular way, in a patriarchal society, and a religious patriarchal society, but at the same time had this deep dark secret all along that she actually had divorced, even though no, she wasn't allowed to divorce. Had she been upfront with her children, they might have had a very different life. But instead, her mom was one of the people perpetuating that lie. And Natalie bought into it so deeply that she just never could recover from it.
Yes, again, it was deeper for the mom, because the mom didn't only get a divorce. She was the one who cheated. She was the one who came out of that, what patriarchy expected of her, and she herself couldn't even handle being not what society of the church expected her to be. And so she created this lie that she perpetuated with her children, and then taught her children subsequently, whatever your truth is, ignore that. You have to go with what you have to be the person that they expect you to be. And I think that's kind of what messed her up.
And I think that you also saw that in a further progression of that with her mother-in-law, who was well on her way to being an alcoholic and drug addict when we very first met her. Mm-hmm. And she also had bought into this lie that her husband was going to be the head of everything. And it ate her up too. And we got to see all the way up front in the beginning of the story how devastating that was for her in her life. So all of these women were putting this on.
Right.
For most of their life.
And some of them didn't know anything other than putting this on. This is who they thought they were. It's who they needed to be, and therefore this is who they thought they were. And I think that's one of the reasons that Natalie had this breakdown halfway through her story, because she really realized she was lying to everybody about who she was, and she thought, okay, I'm not going to lie anymore. I'm going to be the person for real. And it really wasn't who she was. It was just what she thought. Yeah. That it's the story she was telling everybody that she needed to make true. And I think what would have gone the right way is if she started telling people who she really was, which was an unhappy wife with a husband who doesn't love her, and running this farm that wasn't going very well. But she couldn't accept that truth. She had to go the other way.
And it broke her.
Right. I think she broke, and she thought the solution to that was to go further.
Yeah, and then I think that broke her even further, because the entire story leading up to her breakdown was a delusion. Was her living in her own delusion. So yeah, I think she broke multiple times.
What other things do you have to say about this? I'm so curious, because you're very passionate about this book.
Let me talk a little bit more about the Tradwife influencer lifestyle.
Okay.
Very recently, one of the most prominent Tradwife influencers in our culture, who I think is Nara Smith. I'm going to just...
No, I think her husband's name is Smith. Nara, is it? Let me look it up, because I think her husband's name is Smith. It would be very weird if her name were Nara Smith. Lucky. Okay.
Her name is Lucky?
No, her name is Nara Smith, and her husband is Lucky Smith.
Oh, okay. Okay, so very recently, a Tradwife influencer in our own culture, Nara Smith, just came out and did a whole apology. She's doing a whole apology tour. And her approach has been she started by sitting down with the Call Me Daddy podcast and went through item by item all of the things that qualify a person as a Tradwife, and said, I'm not that. That's not me. No, this one's not me. No, I don't do that. I'm a working mom. I work my tail off. I'm a model. I have a nanny. We have house cleaners. Like I don't do it all. And I don't think that she came out with this contradictory messaging because she came to some revelation that she was causing harm with her influencer messaging. I think she started to see the tide starting to turn. And people starting, I think that the illusion of the Tradwife life being the best way to go is a house of cards, and it's starting to crumble. And so people like her are starting to realize that they have to jump ship and pivot if they want to continue to be an influencer, because people are not buying the Tradwife lifestyle the way that I think that the people who are pushing it thought that they would.
But what's Nara Smith's message right now? Because I just see little clips of some of the interviews she's done, and I think she came out saying, no, this is entertainment, or this is part of my job. It's not real. She's not actually living the life that she's portraying.
Her message, what she's trying to convince us now is that she never was trying to push a Tradwife lifestyle. That was never what she was trying to do. She just loves to cook. I mean, oh my God, forgive me because I love to cook. That was kind of her attitude, was I love to cook, so I should be allowed to love to cook. And I just decided to put it online, and everybody else came up with this whole it's a Tradwife thing. Like, that wasn't me. I never tried to do that. And it was like, girl, come on. Like, you are like the number one influencer pushing the Tradwife lifestyle. So you can't come out now and try to gaslight us into thinking that was never the intent. I just wanted to cook.
So there's another one that people are drawing parallels to Natalie in Yesteryear, and that is Ballerina Farm. I remember early on when I saw videos of her, and she was this beautiful ballerina dancing with a bunch of kids around her in her farm. To me, she just looked so unhappy. Like, get back on the stage, get back to Broadway, get back to your studio, whatever it is. It just struck me, without having any history or background of her whatsoever. Didn't even understand the Tradwife influencers yet, but she just looked unhappy. Like, she was doing this, not even out of performance, but out of desperation.
There was such obvious parallels between Ballerina Farms and Yesteryear that there was some speculation that was kind of what the author was writing about, and the author denies. No, I mean, yes, there's some similarities, but I'm not writing about them specifically. Ballerina Farm, I don't know if I want to get too deep into her history. She was a ballerina. She was going to Juilliard School of Dance, and she was also raised a Mormon. And in the Mormon tradition, being a wife and mom is the pinnacle. And I think she tried to break out of it. And when her current husband, met her and fell in love with her, he literally stalked her for 6 months. And she kept turning down everything. Like, do you want to date? No, I don't. I'm not interested. No. His father owned the airline company JetBlue. And he learned that she was going to be taking a plane back to school, back to New York on a JetBlue flight. And so he made a few phone calls and got himself the seat next to her and essentially force fed her into a first date and basically just wore her down until she finally relented and agreed to marry him. And once she married him, the only other option, the only path forward for a Mormon woman who's married is to give up career and aspirations and art and everything that makes you you and become a mom and a wife and serve your family only. So yeah, she's miserable and everybody can see it. And that's part of why I think she's so famous, is because what she puts out on her own Instagram pages is beautiful, lovely. I mean, you look and you go like, oh my God, I would love to have that lifestyle where I could bake bread from scratch in my farm dress. I mean, it looks lovely. And then everything else that's outside of her Instagram feed makes it painfully obvious that she's completely miserable.
But what about other Tradwives? Like, this is a Tradwives are a movement that's happening right now. Maybe it's at the end of it, but I think one of the groups that had Tradwife promotion was the Mormon Wives. There was a TV show called The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. Would you consider that part of the Tradwife movement?
I don't really know enough about that to comment on it. What do you think?
That's what I thought. And it was recommended to me by my 20-something daughter to look at it. So I watched a couple of episodes. And these women are not trad in any way. They might be traditional in obeying their husband, having lots of kids. There's a nuclear family, the maybe one vote for the man, all of this. But these women were kind of out of control in their lives. They were, well, I don't want to spoil it if you want to go watch the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, but their behavior was completely out of control. and not for a Mormon. They're not like they're drinking coffee. This was like orgies and abortions and, the things that I think were not traditional at all. But I feel like that was one of the first sort of Tradwife influencer movements. And then it turned into a TV show, and we got to see what was actually behind the scenes, and it was not that at all.
I think that the illusion of it is almost always just that. It's an illusion. I don't know of very many, I don't hear of very many women who are wives and mothers in a Tradwife style that are ridiculously happy. And what I mean by that is I think that there probably are some stay-at-home parents who have agreed that one parent needs to stay home because of finances or for whatever reason, and perhaps they figure out a way to make it work and everybody's happy. The Tradwife life, however, is much more captivity than just being a stay-at-home parent. It's much more anchored around making a woman so incredibly dependent that she can't leave for a number of reasons. One, because her husband apparently would be making so much money that if she were to try to leave, usually the husband has enough money to hire enough lawyers to take all the children. So one of the immediate threats for a woman in a Tradwife life, even if she wants to get out, is if you try to leave me, I'm going to take all the kids, and they have the money to do it. So immediately you're not just leaving a marriage, you're leaving your whole family. So a lot of women aren't going to do that. Another reason is simply the money. Like, if these women don't have work history and they have no work experience, they're not currently working, they have no income, they have no bank account of their own, what are they going to do if they leave? They have nothing. They would not have enough money and they wouldn't have enough work history to get a job that would give them enough money to actually survive on their own. So a lot of these women end up in poverty, and sometimes they don't leave. The husbands cheat or kick them out, and they're stuck in a life.
Maybe the fact that they don't have their own money is what is promoting the Tradwife influencer culture. Because Tradwife, that's been around forever, but the Tradwives who are promoting it to other women and using it as a showpiece of how their life is actually this great when it's not, maybe the motivation behind that is some sort of financial freedom. Because even in the book, in Yesteryear, Natalie was putting a lot of her influencer earnings aside in a different account and not telling her husband about it. It was her escape fund.
Yeah, which is a smart thing to do, y'all out there. If you're finding yourself currently not working outside the home parent, and get yourself an account and start squirreling away some money, because you may never need it, but if you need it, it'll be there.
I think there are three things that we're talking about. One is the Tradwife influencer, and that could be someone who is just wanting to make money on their own for whatever reason and promote this lifestyle that isn't consistent with their actual lifestyle. So that's the Yesteryear book, that's the Nara Jones, that's the Ballerina Farms. Those are the ones who are out there sort of promoting, and the Mormon wives. Those are all people who are trying to make money or trying to promote this lifestyle that's not the actual lifestyle that they're living, right? Nara Smith admitted this is not the lifestyle that she's living, but this is what she's promoting. So that's one level of it. The second level of it are Tradwives who are genuinely not promoting on social media, but they are proud or outwardly proud of being the Tradwife and sort of promote this idea of obedience to the husband and taking care of the kids and the husband at the same, in the same brood. So my job is to do all of their laundry, all of their cooking, all of everything, to be his mom, just like I'm the kids' mom, have as many kids as you can. This is sort of lifestyle, but they may not be promoting it on social media, but they're living that lifestyle. So Usha Vance, Caroline Levitt, these are people who are promoting that just by being the way that they are. And then there are people who are actually stuck in the Tradwife lifestyle who maybe didn't see it coming and are just sort of quietly, silently suffering in this trap that they fell into, probably because of conditioning, religion, a really powerful husband, could be whatever reasons. But I think those are three different things, and they have different motivations and different prognosis for getting out.
Yeah, I think that the character in the book, while definitely the primary role that she portrayed was the first one you described, which is Tradwife influencer, but I think there also was an element of, I'm supposed to do this. And so I think she was kind of all three. So there was also that element of, I was raised in this, and this is what my mom did, and so I should be doing this too, because that's just the way things are. And then also there was a period of time when they were really running out of money, and the father-in-law was getting real close to cutting them off. And so she was getting desperate. Like she was starting to see this train coming off the tracks and being like, I got to pivot because we can't sustain this. So I think she, at different parts of the story, portrayed all of those things.
Right. And she ended up putting herself into the situation of being trapped in a traditional wife role when she lost all of her followers because she attacked her husband's mistress. Right. So when tide started to turn and nobody liked her anymore, nobody followed her anymore, I think there were plenty of people, the angry women didn't like her, but at least they were looking at her. And now that she had this sort of media turning on her, so she's the bad guy, she's the fake, then nobody was looking at her anymore. And I think that destroyed her. That's one of the breaks that she had. And that's when she decided she has to be the actual genuine thing. Even if no one's looking at her, especially if no one's looking at her, she has to become the genuine thing. And that's when she got all the modern amenities ripped out, and she decided to live like it was 1855 and trap her children in that same life.
And go into some delusion that she was actually living in that life, and not remembering where she had come from.
Right, on some random day, she just decided, I don't know how I got here.
Yeah. And even in that delusion, she found a microphone and had a sensation of people watching her. So, like, even when she wasn't being watched, she felt like she was being watched.
So that was her theory, that she was in some sort of game show or reality TV show. Right, because she needed the eyes on her.
Yeah, because the eyes on was the only thing that validated her life. And when the eyes went away, her life meant nothing, according to her.
The eyes never saw who she really was, and she never knew who she really was. So maybe that was the sort of this despair and the emptiness of knowing everyone's looking at you, but you're not the person that they're seeing. That must be extremely horrifying.
And I really do think that she never had a sense of self.
Right.
All she ever had was what she was portraying to other people. Even before she was an influencer, all she had was what she was putting on.
So if we're able to analyze the literature a little bit, I feel like her college roommate, Rena, was her closest sense of self. And she was criticizing Rena for decisions that Rena made, and always imagining where Rena was in that moment, and then bringing Rena back at the very end to be the person who interviews her. I feel like she had a vision of what herself would be, and that's what Rena actually did. So that was her sort of surrogate. That's what Natalie would be like if Natalie chose what she wanted.
Also, I think that she was very critical of Rena's life, because if she saw how successful Rena actually became, then she would have to admit to herself that she made the wrong choice for herself. Because Natalie was cutting her down all the time.
Right.
Even at the very end when she came in, oh my God, and she came in, she's only a news person in Chicago, so she's not even national. And it's like,
right.
I would be willing to bet Chicago's in one of the top 5 markets. So
yes, but cutting her down was...
But even so, she's trying to cut her down in that moment.
Because she knew she needed to have chosen those things to be authentically herself, and she couldn't. She didn't.
So I want to hear more about what you thought.
Okay, let's talk about the influence of religion. Do you have any opinions about what you're hearing? We would love to hear from you. Write something in the comments. We want to know. Okay, let's talk about the influence of religion. And we don't want to get into specific religions, and the author of Yesteryear, Carol Claire Burke, specifically avoided putting in specific religions. She didn't want to have any dust up. She didn't want to have any issues by accusing a particular religion. But she did talk about religion in the book and the effect that religion had on Natalie's shaping and her conditioning. So I don't want to talk about specific religions, but I do see this quite frequently, that religion has a significant influence on women deciding to do things that are against their nature, for sure. So I was just making a note that a lot of the excuses that she gave herself, that Natalie gave herself for making the decisions that she made, were because of the Lord. And that definitely came from her mom. Her mom kept telling her when she first had Clementine, it's the Lord's will and you have to do it this way. And it was just a theme throughout the book that the Lord was all seeing and all knowing and all controlling, and maybe that influence of having sort of a religion oppressing her made Natalie not able to choose who she really wanted to be. I also feel like the real life Tradwives and Tradwife influencers all are coming from some sort of high control religion, really high control religion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So have you seen Caroline Levitt's recent video that her hairdresser? I don't understand it at all. She looks like a teeny bopper, look at me, I'm silly, stick my tongue out, flirty. I don't know what she was doing, because she's 20 something years old, right? She's got a job. She's got a very high profile job. She's not really a tradwife, only in as much as she behind the scenes might be a tradwife, but she's working, she's out there, she's visible to people. She's not having a million kids. She's only got 2 right now. So I don't understand the point of that video. And I don't understand the point of her putting on this. So it's almost like she's more of a tradwife to Donald Trump than she is to her own husband. That's what she's doing.
Mm-hmm.
She's tradwifing Donald Trump.
She's the skinny white woman in the cult.
Yeah.
So all cults have skinny white women. This is the terminology. It comes from knitting cult lady. That they all have a skinny white woman, which softens the rough edges of the control that a cult has. And so there are always women who are in proximity to power, who are willing to do it because it puts them in that proximity to power, but it's always going to come back to bite them. So I can't even really fathom or speculate why Caroline thought that she needed to put a video out like that. I think that she knows that what she says is a performance. I think she knows that it's completely bullshit. And I think as this house of cards is starting to crumble, I think she's starting to try to figure out what she has to do to get ahead of remaking herself, so that when it all falls apart, she still has a future forward. Because before she was this, she ran for Congress and didn't get it. So she has political aspirations of her own. I don't think she's going to stop at press secretary.
No.
So right now she's seeing everything fall apart. I think she's trying to figure out, how am I going to rebuild my image so that I can continue a career in politics of my own.
So I saw some of this happening when she was pregnant. She was started to shift a little bit. She started to be less visible on the stage. And I don't think it was just because of pregnancy. But I genuinely thought maybe when she had a baby, she wouldn't come back to this same role, because she saw things falling apart. And this would be her perfect out. It would be the perfect tradwife to go take care of the baby and not go back to work. It would have been her way out. And now she's back in. And now she's trying to find a way out again.
I don't think she wants to be out. I think she just doesn't want to be in this particular role when it falls apart. I don't think she wants an out. I think she still wants to have a political life.
She wants to be out from Donald Trump, though.
I don't think... Okay, maybe. I mean, we're speculating here. Obviously, neither one of us is in her brain. I don't think she wants to. I think she's seeing it's inevitable. When a person is that deep in the cult, it's really hard to get to a place where you actually just decide it's time for you to leave. I think she's seeing it's crumbling, but I don't think that you just jump out of a cult that quickly, because she's invested so much of her integrity into this lie that for her to try to unwind it now, it's just too late. She sort of just has to wait until it completely falls, and then she's just got to jump to the next thing and hope that doesn't fall apart underneath her. But I don't think I think she knows it's a lie, but I think she's willing to do all of this because I think she does believe in the end goal, which I think is the second coming of Christ. I think she believes in that, but I think she knows that the path to get there is all bullshit.
So you're right, we're not in her head, but I wonder if she sees the pattern of very powerful women under the Trump administration who have taken the fall. So it's woman after woman after woman. Jeanine Pirro is going to be next. Does she see herself in that line, or does she think no, she's immune to that because what, her
They
hair
all
is
think
really
they're
big?
immune. They all think they're immune to it. Obviously, you don't get into that thinking that there's any chance that you could be the first one or the fifth one or the 10th one on the chopping block. She knows that Trump loves her right now. So as far as she's concerned, I think she thinks that could go on forever, but also is seeing that he's declining physically and cognitively, and so now she's got to make a plan B.
Okay, well, I can personally say that Caroline Levitt is not selling the Tradwife well to me.
No, none of them are selling it very well. And right now, I think that the new generation of women are too smart for that. And I think all of the influencers, and I will, yes, go out on a limb and say all, I think all of the influencers don't believe it. Because if they believed it, they wouldn't also be influencers, because it's being the influencer is contradictory to the Tradwife lifestyle. So I think all of them know that it's an act. Mm-hmm. And I think that the young women who are listening are, I think too many of them are too smart to be duped by it. So I think it's crumbling on its own. And I think that's why Nara Smith tried to get out ahead of it, because they see that this is not the direction that the country is going to head in.
The angry women and the women who don't say anything, who are not angry but are not buying into it, those are the women who are now starting to say, what you're selling is not good for you. It's not good for us.
I think social media is both a blessing and a curse to the propaganda. I mean, on the one hand, like, it's great, you can get your message out so fast to whoever you want. But the flip side of it is people also can get their truths out. And so we're starting to compare our stories to other women in ways that we've never had access to before. Because before, it was just always the only women that you had access to were the other women in your church or the other women in the PTA. And that's so comparing your stories, y'all had the same story. And now, but nobody wanted to admit the dark side of the story. And now on social media, it's a lot easier to say, man, this fucking sucks. And here's all the reasons why, and here's what I've experienced. And now we can go, oh my God, I totally relate to that. So I think that social media, while it can help to push the propaganda, is also the thing that's helping us push back against it.
So that's one really good thing. I think there's another really good thing, that if someone is selling a product that's not genuine, it's not good for people, something like the Tradwife life, where you obey your husband and you only vote the way he wants to vote, that sort of thing. I think the sentiment in social media can shift so quickly, depending on a small view past the social media polish. So once people start seeing really what's going on, like in the book Yesteryear, when Natalie attacked the housekeeper, the producer went and had one interview, and all of a sudden the entire social media perception of her shifted. So the little bit of truth that got out there then shifted the perception to be something more realistic. So that's one good thing. And another good thing about social media is the ability to see past it. And once we see past it, we can shift the entire narrative to something more realistic.
Mm-hmm. And we can make a movement.
Right.
Like, when you get all of the people who agree with you on the same page and willing to be activists in that sense, it's unstoppable at this point. Not the Tradwife life,
right?
But the pushback against the Tradwife life is unstoppable.
Exactly. So I have a comment back to religion, and I'm not going to point out specific religions, but there was something interesting a couple weeks ago. I tried to do some research into how people are writing about the book Yesteryear, because I think it was really well written and it deserved a lot of analysis. And I think how important the story is right now in the society that we're in needs some analysis. And I really couldn't find a whole lot written about it. I saw a lot of articles, I saw a lot of interviews, I saw a lot of radio interviews, NPR, etc. But I couldn't find a lot of articles written about it. The only one I could find, I found two of them. One was written in, I don't remember what it was called. Let me check. It was like the Utah Gazette or something. It was I think it's important to state it properly, just so we can be sued by the right person.
Oh, that's so smart. If it was Utah anything, I can guess what kind of a slant.
Right. Well, that was my point. One of the articles that I read about the book Yesteryear was written by the Salt Lake Tribune, so out of Utah. And then there was a New York Times article that just referenced that article. I think the New York Times ran that same article in the New York Times because I tried to look it up there and they said, no, it's just a link to the other article. So really the main article that I read came out of Utah, and the general sense was, oh, it's not real. We're not happy about the book. We're not happy how it portrays religion and women and all of this. So that was a powerful article.
Yeah.
But from a very particular and perhaps biased point of view of people who are maybe struggling also with the conditioning that they have to be tradwives.
That's interesting that you point that out, that that's the only place that you saw something written, because Substack is all writing.
So there were things on Substack and Reddit where people are contributing their own, but as far as a particular
You're talking published on paper.
Yes.
But I'm suggesting that perhaps a lot of things have been written about it. They're just not all published on paper. Some people publish in other ways.
Yes, and there are many references to TV and radio articles. Like there's one in BBC. So yeah, I think this is, maybe it's me that's being in the old school right now, looking for something that's, newspaper, where I can read the thing. That's just not happening anymore. Especially about a book that's so 2026.
I mean, if you think about it, though, it is ironic that the one place that was willing to publish an article about it was in Utah.
Right. I think they took it personally, honestly. It read as though they took it personally.
It was very pointed. The book was extremely pointed.
Yeah. Yep.
In not a bad way, I think. I think it made some really, really, really good points. And also, like I said earlier, she wasn't only coming after the tradwife lifestyle. She multiple times came after the angry women for what she portrayed as like this being involved but not quite being involved, and being willing to say things online that they wouldn't necessarily back up in real life. And so, she was kind of also picking at like trolling, and she was picking at women like us just being angry. So she came after all of us.
It's interesting to say that because she also, the author, Carol Burke, she also came after the sorority girls, or the college freshmen that lived with Natalie. How they were wealthy but also out of control of their own lives, and were having sex with men and then blaming the men for it. So she came after that sort of group of people that I would kind of associate with.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing. She came after everybody. One of the words that the author used, that Natalie used to describe her husband, was a lack of ambition. That stuck with me because I know those men. And I'm not sure how much I want to say about that, but...
My seatbelt's on. Say it, sister.
Okay. There's a part of me that thinks it's none of my business how ambitious a man may or may not be. And at the same time, when one is married to such man, the lack of ambition can be incredibly frustrating. And it can put you in a spot where you don't have the money to live the lifestyle that you want, because there's no ambition to do anything but further than the bare minimum. So when she was describing her husband as the guy that has no ambition, I was like, yes, sister. Like, I get you. I've met that guy. I married that guy. I divorced that guy. And I feel a little bit guilty about saying that ambition is a value that men should have, because I don't think we should on people. But if they don't have it, it's really hard to live with.
So I'm with you to a degree. I feel like he should have been more self-aware and realized he shouldn't have gotten married at 19 or 20, whatever they got married, young age. She was, a freshman in college? Sophomore, maybe? He shouldn't have married someone that he knew he would have to care for if he didn't have any ambition. But I also think he defined ambition in a different way, and I might have been giving him too much grace, but he at some point wanted to be a school teacher. And to me, that's one of the most wholesome things a person could do, one could interpret it also as you're not going to get anywhere in life being a school teacher and you want to do the bare minimum and have summers off, right? I don't know how to interpret that, but I thought it was quite telling that he wanted to be a school teacher, and she's like, hell no. Hell no, you're not going to be a school teacher.
He wanted to be a school teacher or a cowboy. So I take the point that you're making about him wanting to be a kindergarten teacher actually was probably one of the sweetest moments in the entire book. And at the same time, I don't think he had any idea that lifestyle would not afford him the lifestyle he was accustomed to do.
I also think,
he had no idea how his parents made money, and I don't think he'd ever had to worry about money a day in his life, and probably didn't occur to him that would be something he'd ever have to think about.
more than that, it takes a lot of skill and patience and wonderfulness to be a kindergarten teacher. You have to go get educated and do the right steps to be there. He just wanted to pop into it. So I think he didn't have a lot of self-awareness on that either. It's a tough job.
No, what he wanted to be was a stay-at-home dad.
He wanted to be a kindergartner.
Yeah, that too. I found it really interesting too that the end of his story, he actually became the manly man that she wanted when she first got married to him.
Right.
And what that looked like was very rough, very mean, very cold. So she got what she wanted, and it was not at all what she wanted.
Maybe in some ways it was what she wanted. He was devoted to her. He wasn't cheating. Well, I suppose he was lying because he was going to the brother's house. Her son's houses.
Her.
And he was beating her.
And he was raping her essentially because she didn't want to have sex with him.
No,
she basically said, "Yeah, you."
She didn't want to get pregnant, but she did want to have sex with him. She was satisfied for the first time in her life.
Oh, perhaps. Well, no, he was hard for the first time.
Yeah.
In her recollection.
But she also loved that first time. She did. But
did she?
Yes.
That's messed up.
But then she went and scraped all the sperm out because she was not going to get pregnant.
Yeah.
Which is odd because she could have gotten in a car and gone down to Target and gotten condoms or something. I know that just, yeah.
No, but she couldn't because she was in 1955. She had no car. She actually convinced herself she was living that lifestyle.
Right. Right.
I mean, that she convinced herself that she woke up in 1855.
So tell me more of your thoughts about he became who she wanted him to be, and who she wanted him to be was cruel and rough and older.
I mean, I think what she wanted was a man to take charge, without realizing that sometimes the man to take charge is also cold and cruel.
Right. He's taking charge against your will.
Yeah.
Right.
I think what she probably really truly wanted was to be protected and cared for. But what came out was she wanted a man with ambition and a drive. And, when he finally kind of came around to that kind of personality, it wasn't all that.
Yeah, and he wasn't even very capable at that point. I mean, he wasn't very capable as a farmer or as a cowboy beforehand. But once she stripped everything away, the food that they were eating, the textiles that they had, were not well cared for. They were not living a luxurious life in any way. They were not eating good food. He wasn't the successful cowboy of 1855 that she wanted him to be.
Yeah. Yeah, they weren't even growing enough food to sustain themselves.
Right. What about the children?
What about the children?
Before I knew what happened in the 1855 scenario, I was very curious why her daughter Mary was mothering her. I was very curious about that. Why she was willing to do that. It was a smart little girl, very capable.
I mean, at the end, we found out that it's because she'd been doing it her whole life. But we didn't know that at the time.
Well, her father also told her your mother has demons. Given by the Lord or taken away by the Lord, whatever it is. It was a religious issue that she had. She had demons, and therefore Mary had to mother her mother. And she didn't know any different.
I was pleasantly surprised that the outcome of the first round of children was that those children grew up and rejected all of that. And that her oldest daughter, Clementine, had been trying for years to have the legal right to go and rescue those other children from the household. And I think Mary was actually born before they left and didn't want to leave with them.
Right. Or was a baby and couldn't.
No, she specifically ran home.
Oh, okay.
When Clementine came to get her, she ran home and said, I don't, there's a scary woman in the woods trying to steal me. Okay. I think that also is a really telling part of the story, that the things that we do have a profound effect on our children. And she seemed to be completely oblivious to the effect that all of the crazy and the lifestyle and the tradwifery and the being on camera all the time and just all of it, she had no clue what that was doing to her children. She couldn't understand why Clementine wouldn't want to be on camera.
She never loved her daughter, though. She always looked at her daughter as the thing that she has to have. She was really antagonistic when Clementine was a baby, and then as a teenager, she was just using her for content. There was never sort of this appreciation or closeness or maternal feeling toward Clementine. So maybe that made it easier for Clementine to reject the unhealthy lifestyle.
Yeah. I don't want to imply that all women who become tradwives don't love their children. Clearly this one didn't. I think there are plenty of women who I would be willing to bet anything that the Ballerina Farms mom loves her kids. And at the same time, probably feels stuck in the way that she has to raise them, and that she's going to have to raise her daughters differently than she raises her sons. And that's got to be hard.
So something happens to Natalie with regard to her children over the course of her life. In the beginning, she was wanting to have children because this was part of her tradwife image. Not image, I guess who she thought she was, not the influencer part of her, but just the religiously conditioned person to have a lot of kids. And then her father-in-law told her to have a lot of kids, and so she said, okay, that validates that I need a lot of kids. So she had a bunch of kids her first round, and then when that round sort of rejected it and left, she thought, I'm just going to have a new round of kids, including Mary and the two boys, and then Maeve. And then Maeve came out with significant difficulty because she didn't have the resources to have a baby in a healthy way. And then she changed to, I'm not having any more kids. That's it. So her view of needing to have all these kids changed over time. But it's almost like her first 4 kids that moved out. Was it 4, Clementine? Yeah, so I had 4 or 5 kids. So I think it was the Clementine, 2 boys, and then the 2 little girls, Jessa and
Mary.
Junebug. No, Jessa and Junebug are older than Mary. Right. So those 5, when they left, it was almost like, okay, that's fine. You go do what you're going to do. I'm going to just have more kids. Like they were just disposable. And it was so sad to see that.
Oh, horrendously awful.
Right.
And I don't think that she didn't want to have kids because of what happened to Maeve. I think she didn't want to have more kids because of what happened to her when she delivered Maeve. I think that was painful and traumatic, and she didn't want to go through it again. She didn't want to have another child in 1855 because she knew that there weren't the resources, the pain medications, and all of the things. And I actually thought that was one of the most poignant points that the author made, which was that the tradwife lifestyle glamorizes this other time, this other era, this time in history. And the reality of that history is devastating compared to the lifestyle that we have now. And so I thought that was a really important piece that if we didn't take away, we missed it, was that we can pretend that was glamorous, but I don't think any of us really, truly would want to go back to that time.
Okay, so I want to go there, okay? I want to go there to, is it a tool that's used by manipulators to glorify another time? So the whole MAGA movement, the whole Make America Great Again, I've seen interviewers talking to MAGA diehards and saying, when was America great? And either they can't come up with an answer, or they come up with an answer that when you really push on it, or push on it even a little bit, America wasn't great back then. Oh, other than the slavery, other than the internment of Japanese people, other than the economic, the Dust Bowl, other than all those things, America was great back then.
It was great for them, though. If it was great for their demographic, which
Sometimes,
is white men.
sometimes, but I think my point is, I think that there is a method of manipulation that says, if only we could be in this other time, glorifying what that other time was going to be without taking a serious look at what the consequences of living in that time were. It's the same thing in Yesteryear and the same thing with MAGA. If you really say, okay, it was great in 1960, look at what the world was like in 1960 and say, even for your demographic, was it really that great? Yeah. Or are we trying to get to a place that's better than that was? Same thing with Yesteryear. Is it really that great to be in 1855? You have a baby, and because you don't have medical resources, your baby comes out with some learning difficulties or some neurodivergence, some serious neurodivergence.
Yeah.
So if you really look at that, the time frame, I don't think that's what they're doing, is looking at the real time frame. I think what they're doing is glorifying some other time in the world in order to manipulate us into thinking that today is not good and we have to make behavioral changes to get to what it was like in that time, even though what it was like in that time was not as good as they think it was.
Yes, they're painting a picture of a time that never existed, is I think what you're saying.
That's exactly what it is. Thank you. A lot fewer words. Thank you for that.
So it goes along with the whole conservative Christian movement. So one of the appeals of the conservative Christian movement is it gives black and white answers to questions that don't have black and white answers. Right? Like, and one of the reasons why people are drawn to it is because the pastor can say, abortion is absolutely a sin, without any of the gray area of, okay, what about when the baby's already dying or dead, and the mom will die if you don't go in there and extract the tissue, right? Like, that's a gray area they don't touch at all. And the reason why it's such an appeal is because the people that can't think in color also then can be really easily swayed by this painting a picture of a time that was perfect for you, even though it wasn't. But if you can paint that picture, then the brains that can only think in either or are going to be like, well, we can't have that now, therefore we must go back to that in order to have that picture they're painting.
Right, the very black and white, stark, devoid of nuance, devoid of reality.
Void of nuance, yeah, exactly.
Right. I heard someone say today that people who think in that black and white way are sometimes, not sometimes, but frequently insulted by people who are experts. So scientists, Anthony Fauci, people who speak in nuance. It makes them feel less than. It makes them feel stupid. And that's why they vilify people who think in nuance and talk about fact and knowledge. And I just found that incredibly disheartening.
All of it is disheartening. Yeah. The whole thing, everything we just spent the last hour talking about is incredibly disheartening, because there are people who are perpetuating it as a lie, and then there are those poor people who are buying it.
Right.
And that, for me, is the most devastating. That, to me, is more painful than the people who are lying, is the people that believe the lie.
So does this book in any way represent a turning point or a dying gasp for Tradwife influencers?
Yes, all of it, all of it. The whole conservative movement, the whole Christian conservative white nationalist movement, I think is all kind of coming to a head. And I think that this book was one of the pivotal pieces of art that points out all of the downside of this rosy picture they're painting. And I think it's just one among many things that is the beginning of the end for that movement.
But what happened to Caleb at the end of the book? I know that Natalie ended up in prison. What happened to Caleb?
Oh, he ended up in prison too.
Did he? Okay.
He ended up in prison, yeah, but she did the interview.
I tell you, I really want to read Mary's book. I really want to read that book.
Yes, well, we just did. This was kind of her. I mean, this is what we read was what she would come up with, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. I want to. Yeah,
I think it's a great sequel.
I would want to read it and then not read it.
I know, because she's going to talk about day-to-day things and how much lye she has to put in the clothes wash, all this, right? But I think it's a great. I don't think that Carol Burke did this on purpose to come up with a sequel, but that's going to be a good sequel.
I hope she writes it.
Yeah.
I hope she does. I mean, it would be fascinating to hear it from a different perspective.
Right.
One of the things about the book that was which is why it was so horrifying when you find out what happened at the end, is that the entire first part of the book, she describes her story with such lucidity that it never once crossed my mind that she lost her shit.
Right.
Like, it never crossed my mind that that was even a possibility, because she was so very clear. This was the life she had before. This is the life she has now. Here's how it compares. Here's how it's difficult. How can she get back to the life that she had? Everything was so crystal clear, and the memories that she told, which then we find out later, some of the things that she were told weren't the truth at all.
Right.
Like, that she didn't just slap that producer. She raped her.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the same thing.
Right. Right.
And so even though she was telling it in a way that sounded lucid, it absolutely wasn't. But that was part of why it was so horrifying at the end, was because in her mind, it was all crystal clear.
So she was very lucid and very articulate and very good at framing for social media. But it was always so clear she had on such a thick and rigid mask. Even in the beginning, when she was learning to be an influencer, the feedback she was getting from her influencer group was, you have to be more authentic. You're not likable. So she had this really thick, rigid mask that made me think, if that cracks, it's going to explode on her. Something bad is going to happen. It didn't occur to me. It was such a well-written book. You're right. It didn't occur to me until it was revealed that she did this all to herself. It didn't occur to me, and I couldn't imagine at the beginning. I was going to be very, very upset with Carol Burke for how she was going to resolve the book, because the choices looked like she would end up living in 1855 and she'd happily find her way there, and she'd be content in the life that she had with the natural clothing and the food that they're raising for themselves and just the community that she has with her family, right? That's one way to resolve it, that she found her life there, which would suck, because that would go against all of our anger against Tradwives, right? The other option would be that she appreciated in 1855, and then she made it back to her real life and appreciated that real life and started to behave more authentically. And that wouldn't be very good either, because she then would just forget all of the stuff that she did, and she'd be absolved because she learned something. There was no redemption arc. None. And while I love a redemption story, I'm really glad in this case that there wasn't one, because it wouldn't have been believable. It wouldn't have been satisfying.
I'm 100% with you on this one. I figured out halfway through the book that this is not going to end well, because I had the same thought that you did. Like, there's no outcome to either one of these stories that makes her a better human being.
Right.
Because even as she's telling her own story, she's not growing. She's not learning. She's not becoming a better human.
Right.
So about halfway through, I was like, oh, damn, this is not going to have a happy ending. I still wouldn't have predicted the way that it actually came out, which was so satisfying and horrifying at the same time.
Yeah, it was extremely well done. Extremely well done. And had to have been woven in from the very beginning. So good on you, Carol Burke. You did a good job with this book. Keep it up.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is a piece of art that will tell the story of this point in history for decades and decades.
Hey, Asma, do you like your mom's content?
I do. Do you like it, Kiwi?
I really do. I like my mom's content.
It's amazing.
Hey, like and subscribe, please.
Like and subscribe.